Welcome to the Opportunity Podcast, where entrepreneurs come to learn from real buyers, sellers, and industry experts on the lesser-known growth opportunities to build their online business empires. We'll uncover tactics veteran online business entrepreneurs have used to build, buy, flip, and sell their way towards personal wealth. Sit back, grab a coffee, and get ready to uncover hidden growth secrets. The Opportunity Podcast starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Opportunity Podcast, your go-to resource for hidden growth opportunities throughout online business. For those familiar or new to the podcast, I'm Sarah, and thanks for joining me today. Today, I'll be speaking with Chima Mmeje, an SEO content writer and strategist and the founder of the Freelance Coalition, an online resource that helps freelancers scale their businesses. In this episode, Chima guides us through her favorite content strategy, the topic cluster framework, and explains how this method helps domains climb the Google rankings. She walks us through how to implement, maintain, and optimize your keywords and content using this framework, as well as the outstanding results she's witnessed topic clusters produce. Chima also gives us insights into her life as a freelance content writer and explains how her new initiative, the Freelance Coalition, helps to aim emerging freelancers and BIPOC freelancers gain a foothold in the industry. If you've been struggling to maintain momentum with your current SEO strategy, then Chima might have the solution you've been looking for. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Opportunity Podcast. I'm really excited to be joined by today's guest. We've got Chima Mmeje on the show with us today. So Chima, thank you so much for joining and coming on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a massive pleasure to be here, Sarah.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you. I'm genuinely really excited to talk about some of today's topics. I know we're going to be getting into SEO strategies. You work a lot within the SaaS space in particular. We'll be talking about topic clusters, some really good stuff on the agenda. Before we get into it, though, I would love to hear a little bit about your backstory. So, for those who don't know you, walk me through how you ended up working in the world of online business and what that looks like for you today.
I started out initially as a content writer. I was working for an agency, or no, let's not call them an agency. Let's call them what they are, a content mill.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for a content mill. I was writing around 100,000 words a month.
Wow.
And making like 500 for all of that stuff. And it was crazy. I remember I used to wake up around 2 a.m. and then write until 8 p.m. just to meet up with the daily word count of 5,000 words.
Wow.
And I did that from August 2017 until I think 2019. Yes, 2019. I left around June. It just didn't seem like a sustainable way to live because I was having all this body pain from working those insane hours. And I went freelance. And I remember I was in this group called the Copywriting Club on Facebook. And there was someone in the chat that had mentioned that she was charging $500 piece of content. And my mind was blown. Because this was someone who was charging $500 for one piece of content while I was charging $500 a month to write 100,000 words. And that's when I was like, okay, it's time to go freelance.
Right.
Yeah. And I went freelance and I was dabbling in everything, writing landing pages, product descriptions for e-commerce, just doing a bit of everything. But I wasn't having fun and I wasn't making a lot of money. I was probably averaging at $1,000 a month or so. I wanted to be earning more. I wanted to be doing more. And then in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, I lost all of my clients. And right after losing all of my clients, I raised my rates and I niched down in SaaS. And that is where I've been ever since.
Wow. I just want to tell you how impressive you are. Like when, people tell me they write a certain amount of words a day, I'm always impressed by it. But what you were just writing a day, getting up at 3 a.m., writing till 8 p.m. I mean, my mind is blown, like truly. Also, I'm like, oh gosh, you're making me look terrible as a content writer. Don't tell my boss. Don't set this standard. He'd probably hire you right away. No, I mean, it's incredible. But, like you were saying, obviously not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
You had a lot of body pain. Obviously, you're going to get burnt out. For clarification, and probably something I should have asked you right out the gate, like where were you working from when you were doing all this?
I was in Nigeria. I was living in Abuja.
Okay.
I was working in Nigeria back then.
Right. And so how did you come across like this content mill or kind of what led you into that?
It's very common. What they do is that they target people living in developing countries, poorer countries, Nigeria, Pakistan, India, the Philippines. Countries where people don't know their worth and people are living below the poverty line. And to be honest, when I heard 500, it seemed like a lot of money. It was a lot of money because when you convert that into your local currency, it becomes something reasonable. But it's exploitation. It's actually modern day slavery when you think of it.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. They target poorer countries and then they structure it like if it's a full-time job. They tell you it's a salary, 500 a month salary. But you have to show up 5 days a week and you have to show up on 2 weekends. And you basically always have to be on. It's just insane. So they have like this job portals where they can advertise on. And then it seems like it's a local business, but when you go in, you realize it's not a local business. It's run by some white dude who lives in the UK or in the US. For me, the person who was running this content mill lived in the UK, Southampton to be precise.
Wow.
And then he had all of us writers and everybody else living in Nigeria, India, Pakistan. Yeah.
I'm glad you're clarifying that because I know we'll circle on this at the end, and you've, obviously kind of had your own journey working from that content mill to kind of developing your expertise as a writer. And now you're giving back to the same community and other writers who were in a similar position to you. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but I wanted to just set the stage there for anyone who might be wondering, where were you writing from? Why were you kind of working for that particular business? I think it's all relevant to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So let's just you were starting to get into where you are today. It's great to hear that you got out of that position. You're like, okay, clearly I need to raise my rates. I need to kind of develop into something more. So talk to me about that journey. You niched down and you focused on creating content for SEO strategies for SaaS businesses in particular. What was it about SaaS that really resonated with you and made you want to niche down into SaaS?
I think every time I get this question, people expect some kind of profound answer, but there is really nothing profound. I like money. SaaS and tech companies are well funded. They have money. They're always spending on marketing. It's that simple. It's about the money for me. And I'm always trying to think of what is the easiest thing I can do in the least amount of time to make the most money. And writing SEO content and building SEO strategies come easy for me. Working with SaaS companies come easy for me because it's easy for me to understand the value, the proposition, how to put that in content, how to make it easy for ordinary user who is not tech inclined to understand that value prop. I can demystify that value proposition easily. A lot of people are not really good with that, but that's something that comes naturally for me. So it just made sense for me to tap into what I'm already good at and then just turn it into a way to make money.
Excellent. Well, you make an important point there because I remember, I guess back in the day for me when I was trying to get into writing and kind of looking at experts in the space, they talked about the importance of finding your niche, finding a niche that there was opportunities, that there was money, that you can charge what you're worth. And it really does seem like SaaS, for all the reasons that you just mentioned, is a great place to start, a great place to really grow your expertise in. So I think it's great advice for those out there who are like really hungry to become a writer, don't know what niche to focus in, kind of look towards those same directions that you're just talking about. Look towards SaaS, look for something that's got growth, that's got money, and then go from there.
Exactly.
You know full well, when you don't have a niche as a writer, it can be really difficult to write about everything, which I think is what a lot of writers really struggle with, right?
It's the assumption that if you're a generalist, then you get more gigs. But you might be getting more gigs, but how much are you making on those gigs? I was making $200 per content and averaging out 8,000, or in my best month, 3,000 after writing a ton of content as a freelancer. And that was as a generalist. And then I go and specialize in SaaS, writing just SEO content, and I can charge that much for just one piece of content. So specialization, definitely more money, less work.
Amazing. Yeah, I really do appreciate you putting that into perspective because, I can speak. I was there myself a while back going, gosh, how do I niche down? What do I do? And I kind of wish that I had someone like you to look towards at that point and figure it out. Clearly made my way somewhere. Here I am in Empire Flippers. But in any case, I would love to get into, just some of your ideologies and expertise around SEO. One thing that I saw that you said is, you've previously said that the first lesson you learned in SEO is that not all traffic is created equally. So what does that mean to you?
That's the thing. A lot of SEO companies, they make this big promise about traffic, yeah? But where is the traffic coming from? That's what you always have to be considering. Are you actually ranking for the right keyword? Because you can be ranking, you can be putting in a lot of traffic, but is it relevant? So that's the difference between relevant and irrelevant traffic. Traffic that it's poor quality is not going to convert because it's attracting the wrong audience. And you're going to notice that in result of high bounce rates and people not engaging with the content. But traffic that is quality, that is relevant to what your target audience wants to read, you will notice that in longer dwell time and more engagement with the content on your website. So that is what it means when I say not all traffic is created equally.
Okay. I think that's a good clarification. I think a lot of people can really get lost in the muddle of things.
Yeah, in the numbers. They get lost in the numbers, and then the numbers has to lead to something. It has to be an end goal, which is always going to be conversion. So it's so easy to get swallowed up in, oh, we've got 10,000 people checking out our website every day. But yeah, how many of them are actually converting? Are they just coming in because they're seeing the wrong thing and it's not relevant to them and then bouncing? Or are they actually coming in and getting engaged and taking the action you want them to?
You are 100% right about that. Too many people get caught up in the numbers, and obviously it is not serving them. One of the interesting things that you do when we were talking about, you coming onto the show and the sort of things that we could talk about today, I loved that you have a strategy for new domains who are out there and trying to get established when it comes to their content. So I want to talk to you about that because I think that's such a common challenge in our industry. People want to start new sites, but they get completely intimidated by the notion of having to go, how in the world am I going to rank? How am I going to get content that's going to make it out there? So from your take, what are some of the biggest challenges that new domains face when they're trying to become established, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I'm going to come at this from the SaaS angle because that's where I work in. So problems I noticed that people face is, first of all, who am I? That's the big problem, the identity crisis. And if you get that wrong, you're always going to be flailing for the rest of the existence of that website. You need to figure out who you are, what you're going to serve, who you're going to serve it to, and the first thing you want people to think of when they think of you. That clarity of identity, I think, is the biggest problems that new brand face. Because when you know who you are as a brand and you know your audience and you know the one word you want people to think of, then you can start to create the right content from there. For example, I did a project recently with a SaaS company, a PLG SaaS company, that's product-led growth. But they weren't sure who they were. They said they were a sales tool. I said, that's too broad. You can't just call yourself a sales tool. You've got HubSpot, you've got Salesforce, you've got many competitors who are dominating the space. What exactly is it that you do? And then it was by the second call that I was able to narrow it down and realize that this brand is a PLG CRM. So that is the specific thing they do. They're PLG CRM. Now, once we know who they are, then we can identify who they are serving. Who is going to be using the PLG CRM tool? That's sales teams, customer support teams. Then we have people who are going to be reading this content. What problems are they solving? Then you can use that to create content around the kind of problems that they're going to want to be saying. So that's the big challenge. The first big challenge, identity crisis. Second big challenge, figuring out the topic, the one word that you want people to think of when they think of your brand name. For example, I think of HubSpot and I think of CRM. I think of WordPress CRM. I think of Westbush and I think of product-led growth. So these are people that have kind of owned a topic. Their names have become synonymous with that topic. And they've done this by building authority. So you want to start from the ground up to define who you are and to define the word that you want people to think of when they hear your brand name. So that's the big challenge that I see with a lot of new domains, new companies, figuring out that identity.
Well, I guess to build off that a bit, I understand that when you are, let's say you've identified that identity, and then I know that you specialize in solving that kind of next step via topic clusters. So can you walk me through, just what a topic cluster is and how it helps businesses overcome those challenges?
Yeah. So a topic cluster at the core, it's a way to build authority through content. That is the simple definition. Because ideally, I like thinking ambitiously with content. I think content can do more than just get you to rank for a few keywords. Content can help you to build authority in the mind of your audience so that even when they're offline and they're thinking of a problem, your brand name is the first thing that comes to mind. That is what I really like to define authority as. And you can do that with a topic cluster. It's a way for you to create content using the pillar cluster approach. You have a mother topic and then you have child topics. So the mother topic is that big overarching keyword that has a ton of search traffic. And then you have the child topics, which are all sub keywords or secondary keywords related to that mother topic. The idea is to cover that topic so exhaustively that whoever a user is coming in from their journey, whether they're at the top of the funnel, just learning about that topic, or maybe they're at the middle considering, or maybe they're at the bottom whether to make a purchase, or even if they bought a product already and they are the post-purchase part of the journey, you are there serving content and you're capturing the user wherever they are. There is no gaps because you've covered that topic exhaustively. It's a comprehensive way to own a topic because you're going to rank when you own the topic is exhaustively, but you're also going to build authority and you're also going to be first in mind for the end user. These are the things that you want to be happening.
I really like what you said earlier about, authority is more than just, almost ranking in a way. It's being that top of mind. It's being
Yes.
the absolute trusted
Yes.
content provider that people come back to. I think that's huge. It's so important. And it goes back to what you said earlier about people get caught up in the numbers. It's why they misunderstand traffic.
Yes.
And I think to build true authority in a space that is increasingly competitive across Google, you got to think bigger. It's got to be beyond the numbers. So you have to get creative and you really have to look for those instances of creating trust. And I love that you do that via this topic cluster strategy. I think, a lot of people, when they thought about topic clusters in the past, it's like, all right, well, this is a ranking game, right? But the way that you're approaching it is going, well, yeah, okay, there's a ranking game at hand. However, I am looking to be that ultimate authority, that peace of mind for people. Yeah. And that's just a different shift. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. Because I don't just have keywords, I have topics in there too. So that's the difference. There are keywords with search volume, but there are also topics that are around questions that sales teams and customer support teams receive. And then you can send them these pieces of content and say, oh, we have this stuff that really explains this thing in detail. And then they give it to the customer and the customer feels like this thing was written for them. That level of personalization with the content, it's a game changer. So it's not just focused on what has search volume. It's also focused on what does our customer need to know to get them to the next stage.
Absolutely. It's just really keeping people at front of mind.
Yes.
I think the more I hear from people throughout the realms of SEO and everyone's approach on how do they provide value, I really think that's the key factor is how do I treat that reader like a human and do a bit more for them? So I appreciate that you've got that framework and that sense of mind there. Now, you were kind of talking about this in a way. I just wanted to dig into it, kind of open the floor just in case I missed anything. Beyond what you were just mentioning about some of those, I guess, approaching topics, are there any fundamental building blocks that businesses need to have in place before they're trying to implement a topic cluster?
Like I said, you need to know who you are. That's the first thing. Because if you don't know who you are and you don't have an overarching topic that you want to go for, then you can't build a topic cluster. The website itself also has to be optimized for SEO. I always encourage brands to hire a tech SEO specialist to get tech SEO in place, make sure that the website is properly built, make sure that the website is optimized, make sure that there are no errors, so that the content, when we start creating them, has the best chance to rank. So in terms of fundamental building blocks, after building the website, get a tech SEO expert, make sure you've gotten your buyer personas. That's so important. Make sure you have your value proposition because you're going to be adding that inside the content when writing. And make sure you have an overarching topic that you want to cover, that big keyword that you want to be known for.
I like that. It's a really good framework. Well, I guess to dig into that a bit more, we talk about the fun stuff here. How does one go about doing the research for a topic cluster?
Yeah, this is the really fun part. So, like I said, the first part is identifying who you want to sell to, your audience, and that comes from your buyer persona. So once you have a buyer persona, you've already answered that question. You need to figure out the topic you want to cover, which comes from knowing who you are as a brand and identifying the word you want people to describe you by. Then you have to do the keyword research, first of all. I always like to start with competitor research. When I'm doing the keyword research, I pick the top 5 brands that are ranking for that topic, and then I plug them into SEMrush, and I'm looking at missing links. I'm looking at gaps. I'm looking at anything that we don't already have. If it's a new brand, I'm just basically going to be saying, okay, what are these brands having in terms of keyword volume that is valuable that we can take from? Because we want to do both. We want valuable keywords, but we also want them to have as much volume as possible because it's a new brand and traffic is a big goal. So I'm targeting all of that. I'm importing it into an Excel spreadsheet. I'm also doing the broad keyword research, looking at long tail questions that have reasonable search volumes. I'm importing that. And then once I have all this, I'm looking at content ideas from SEMrush and from Answer the Public, and then I'm running them manually in Google to see what the search volume for each of these keywords are. Find the relevant stuff, add them into an Excel spreadsheet. Once I have all these keywords down, then I start to trim the list and I group them: top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, post purchase. Once I've grouped them, then I can start to remove stuff that I think is not important. At the start, we want to focus on those high volume keywords and bottom of the funnel. So we build from down and make our way up if it's a new brand, because conversion is important, traffic is important. Let's get a mix of both in there for this new brand. And once we do all of that, looking for money keywords, I get all that in a spreadsheet. I like to sleep on it because sometimes I get an inspiration for an idea when I sleep on it. And then the next day I can come back and I can go back to that keyword data and see if I missed anything again. So I have the competitor research. I have the manual keyword research. I also like to use Bozzumo. And then I love using social media. I love social media for keyword research because you can find what I like to call opinion pieces, because it is those opinion pieces that actually make you an authority. So I'm looking for divisive topic. I'm looking for trending hashtags. I'm looking for what industry influencers are talking around that specific topic. And then I'm pulling all of that and I'm adding it into my keyword research data. And that is basically how I do that research. And once I have all those keywords in there, next step, build the briefs. Build the briefs with the primary keywords, secondary keywords, suggested internal links, suggested anchor text for external links. And I also add in semantic entities that we're going to use when writing the content. And I ship that out to clients.
I love what you just said. You're talking about sleeping on it. It was so cool to hear your framework that you just went through, but I thought that was really cool. You kind of ended with, I sleep on it because I get a creative idea, or I might look for something that I've missed.
My best ideas come at 10 p.m. in the nights.
I think that's really important because, it's something I talk about a lot with people in the SEO space. SEO is more of like a science than an art, and they don't want to really mix the two, when I think you do need a little bit of art, a little bit of creativity to really hone in on what is a good SEO strategy, what is a good keyword strategy. And so the fact that you zoom out after doing all of the really sciencey part and the logistical parts of that research, you go, give me the space to figure out what I might have missed. Give me the space to figure out what could be an even better idea. And I thought what you said about social was also really creative as well. Like, that's a really awesome strategy. I think for anyone out there listening, like, everything that you just laid out is a really nice framework to go, this obviously works, but then this is how you take it to the next level.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's cool. Now that we've got like a little bit of framework to talk about, it's a fantastic keyword strategy. What about backlinks? So do you need to build backlinks if you're linking internally within the topic cluster?
Definitely. Like when I'm working with clients and it's me executing the cluster, I like to give them the strategy for what I think should be the anchor text. So the idea is that the keywords that have higher search volume get more backlinks, and then it just flows down from there with those that have lower search volumes. So for the anchor text, I like to use the main primary keyword, and then the people who are ranking for that keyword, what are they using as the anchor text? I want to also use that as part of our anchor text strategy. And then we're building backlinks from relevant websites that are related to our industry. And I'm trying to get at least 30 backlinks to that cluster every month, depending on the client's budget. So definitely without backlinks, you're not going to get any results. I built a cluster for a client last year. Between August and December, we executed 2 of those clusters. And the first cluster, 5 out of 9 pages are on page 1. 5 out of 9 content are on page 1. The cluster is ranking for a ton of keywords. But that didn't happen just because I wrote awesome content. It happened because we wrote awesome content, we picked the right keywords, and we built backlinks to that cluster. We were building links continuously every month. We're building links continuously. The moment a page got to top 5, then we would move those extra backlinks to other pages that were on page 2. The idea is to get all of them to page 1 through link building, through content distribution. That's another thing you also need to have: link building and a way to distribute that content to get in front of the right people.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a really good holistic framework when approaching that content. And again, if we're talking generalized strategies here and, for writing hopefuls or even just people out there growing their content sites, listen in. I think everything you just said, you've got to think really outside of the box. You've got to think holistically. every single
Yes.
piece of the puzzle. It's not just good content.
Yes.
It's not just that right keyword. You got to
Yes.
go all in, essentially.
Yes.
Well, talk to me about this. What are some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs up when they're trying to use topic clusters?
Yeah, I'm just going to dive back to what you just said about making it holistic and
Yeah.
thinking outside the box. Most people who are building content clusters just tend to cage themselves and put themselves in a box. So let me give you an example. Let's use the keyword of content marketing. And then they might just say the pillar content is what is content marketing. And then they have 10 content pieces in there supporting it with types of content marketing tools, how much does content marketing cost? Like it's just basically 10 other pieces with the word content marketing thrown in there. But they're not asking those questions of what does our audience want to know about content marketing? What kind of questions are sales teams getting around this topic? What can we use to support our customer support teams or our sales teams to get them to close deals if they're getting these questions repeatedly? What happens after people become customers? What kind of content do they want to see? So it's a big mistake because I see people who abandon their customers at the end of the typical traditional circle at the bottom of the funnel. They don't think of post purchase content. I see people who build a cluster and then forget to think of all the other different solutions that our products provide. Another big one is writing the pillar content first. If you write the pillar content first, the rest of the cluster is not going to have a good chance to rank. So start from the bottom or start from the cluster and then make your way to the pillar. The pillar should be the last thing you write, not the first thing you write. These are like the pretty big mistakes that I see people making with topic cluster. And again, most people don't use social media. I don't know why. But if you want to write opinion pieces that get people talking, that get you trending, that get the author, in this case, probably a SaaS founder or someone who owns the website, people are recognizing your name and putting it in their mind that this person is an authority, then you need to be creating opinion pieces as part of your cluster. And you're getting those ideas from social media, Reddit, Twitter, LinkedIn. Divisive topic, take a side, write your opinion on it. You can't get that from your traditional keyword research.
That's so interesting. I feel like I've just got loads of like follow-up questions in my head as you talk about that one, because a part of me thinks logistically about that, where I go, okay, you're finding a trending topic and you're writing decisively on one opinion. Do you kind of implement like a little bit of a keyword strategy in that? Or sometimes is it just purely about I'm going for what's trending and then like trying to see, like it's more about seeing it trend on social versus trying to get it to trend on the SERP?
Yeah, when you get this kind of topics, I try to look for a way to integrate a keyword in there to kind of like give it structure. There's definitely going to be a topic. So I'm looking for something that at least has some kind of set that can, let's say I find a topic that people are talking about on social media that is divisive. That topic itself has to derivate from something that I can find on Google search that has a keyword. I can just use that as an overarching topic to give that content structure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. No, I appreciate that because that's a struggle that I've faced in the past
Yeah,
with
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to talk about trending topics.
Even when I can't find those keywords, you still have internal linking. That content can exist as a way to link internally and to give fast link juice to other content pieces there. Because most of this stuff that trend gets a ton of traffic momentarily, and people keep referring back to it occasionally, but it's not the kind of content that is bringing traffic for a long time. It's kind of tapping into the moment and then putting your opinion out there and then building an experience in the mind of your user by taking a stand, because that is how people know who this brand is. That is how people see the personality behind the brand.
Okay. I think that's fantastic. It's a really, really good tactic. It's also just a nice way to humanize a lot of the things.
Exactly. I like that word, humanize. Yes.
Yeah. And hey, take a stand on probably something that you care about, want to share with
Yes.
your audience. Totally.
Yes.
So you were talking before about you were managed to get some pretty quick results and good results, it sounded like.
Not
but
quick.
Not quick.
Not
Okay.
quick.
Okay. Well, talk to me about that then. Talk to me about timing. How long does it take for topic clusters to start producing measurable results?
Honestly, with everything in SEO, what's the word we say? It depends.
Right. You're well versed.
Oh, definitely. It depends. Execute quickly. For example, I build a topic cluster that has 10 topics and you execute all of that in 1 month and then you start building backlinks immediately. Whoop, you're going to start seeing results in 3 months' time. It's all about how much are you willing to spend. if this client was a smaller brand that didn't really have a lot of money, so we're kind of like piecing it out, creating, dropping 3 content pieces a month. I think it took like 5 months for us to execute the first cluster. And that was how long it took for us. By the time we finished executing the first cluster, we're already seeing some sort of results. But like I said, if you have a bigger budget and you execute 10 content pieces a month and you're building like 30 backlinks to that cluster, you will definitely see results faster. It's a matter of finding the balance between quality and quantity.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely see what you mean there. I think fast is very relative. I know we know in SEO.
Yes.
What about kind of ROI have you witnessed topic clusters have on the businesses you worked with? I know you've talked about it a little bit before, but if you've got any other scenarios that come to mind.
The first one is authority. Most of these businesses that I work with were just creating content without purpose. It wasn't really generating any results. So the first thing that happened, because I'm ghostwriting with the client as the author, he now starts to have authority. People who are reading the content are seeing him as an authority, are seeing him as someone that they can trust. And if they can trust him, then they want to engage more, see what else he has to say. And if they're engaging more, then they're making their way down the funnel to conversion. So those are like three things: trust, authority, conversion, increased traffic. So these are like the things that I noticed that happen. They tend to start getting more trust with their audience because the content is really good and the content is solving problems. Engagement is going up. If engagement is going up, that means the bounce rate is going down and the dwell time is increasing. And then the traffic is usually the best part. The traffic is really going up. And if you have more people coming into your site and not just bad traffic, good quality traffic from the right type of content, then you have a higher chance of converting those people and then pulling them into your lead funnel.
Excellent. That's fantastic example of, I think, like we're talking about holistic ROI, kind of the best ROI, not just numbers. We're talking about like something that's really going to carry you down the road and grow your brand. Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed getting to know your topic cluster strategy and your mindset on SEO. I feel like we're kind of aligned when it comes to the human-driven version of creating content. So that's really cool. I wanted to ask you just a couple personal questions because you're working on some pretty cool stuff. So to start, back to your story of when you were working at the Content Mill, you left and you started working for yourself. What were some of the challenges you faced when you struck out on your own and you had to build a business from scratch?
I think the biggest one was getting over the Nigerian fear factor. A lot of Nigerians, we have a bad reputation outside the country with scams, with the whole Nigerian prince thing. So most people hear Nigeria and then they think, oh, this is a scam artist. This is someone who just wants to take my money and run. So that was the first thing. Getting people to understand that I'm Nigerian, but I'm not a scam artist. I'm authentic and I actually know what I'm talking about. So that was the first one: building authority, getting my name out there, getting visibility. And as I started to become more popular online, it became easier to land clients. And I haven't had a client talk about my location in a long time. Even when I was living in Nigeria, it just became easier. So I would say that was the biggest challenge. And the second one was finding work, obviously, because you're branching out into this whole new world. I had this mindset that $100 or $200 was the best I could do. I still remember the first time I charged 600 for content. I was like, mind blown. And then the first time I did 10K, it was just insane. But it only kept getting better from there. But that first year, the biggest challenges I would have to say was overcoming that barrier to skin color, to location, and finding clients that are willing to pay a decent wage for content.
Yeah. I love that kind of full circle story that you were just talking about. I mean, I'm so sorry that you'd faced those challenges at first. You had, some pretty tough obstacles to overcome to say, hey, no, I'm here, I'm smart, I can provide value, I know what I'm talking about. And it's good to just talk about some of those barriers to entry that, a lot of people may not think about or understand.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of what fueled you working on a really cool project here that I wanted to ask you about. So I mean, not only are you an SEO whiz, you're also the founder of the Freelance Coalition for developing countries. So talk to me about the problems you identified that this coalition seeks to solve.
Yeah, I found out that I was not the only one who was having these issues. Like, for example, let me just fast forward a bit. Today, someone in the coalition, we have what we call a tech SEO mentorship, where we're providing mentorship support or training to 10 BIPOC people so that they can enter into the tech SEO industry because it's so white dominated. And one of the students today emailed me to just say thank you because he used to charge $1 for 500 words. That's $2 for 1,000
Wow.
words of content. And this was up until last year. He literally just emailed me before I jumped on this podcast to record this episode. And it's a reminder of the problems that we face here. So that's the big problems. People undercharging for their services because they've been told by white people that since they live in developing countries, they don't need to be making that much. And then believing the lies that you have been fed because it's the only truth that you know.
Yeah.
Then we have the big skill gap because they can't afford to pay for trainings. Content writer, the good courses cost $2,000, some even more. 2,000 will probably even be on the cheap side. Most of them cost more. You want to upskill, you have to pay for it. These are people who are living below the poverty line. They can't even afford to pay $100 for an SEO tool. So these are all different barriers that are standing in their way that keep them in poverty mindsets, that keep them working for content mills and prevent them from scaling. So that's what we're trying to do with the coalition.
I'm really glad that you've set out to do that and just kind of I guess you're talking about the structure of the way things are today. I suppose as like an outsider in online business kind of looking in and getting a lot of different people on this podcast, it's like the one thing I would love to see in the world of online business is that everybody can access the opportunities equally. And we know that's not the case, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you're working against a lot of barriers to entry for people in developing countries who aren't getting opportunities in online space, but they're not the same opportunities in online space. And they're not the ones that pay equally. So the fact that you're trying to overcome that for people is huge. And I appreciate that you're out there trying to solve that. Yeah, because I think online business in all of its different facets is really exciting. It offers incredible opportunities for people. We just need to figure out how do we actually make that equal across the board. So talk to me about kind of the progress you've seen so far with what you're doing. I understand that you had, just gotten that amazing email prior to this call that you've got someone who, understands that the rates are too low and now they're changing it. What else are you seeing and what are your goals for the coalition going forward?
There are two things we're trying to achieve with the coalition. Close the skill gap, which is our biggest goal, and then provide free training for people in the coalition. So everything we do depends on people in the industry either donating time to provide mentorship support to people living in developing countries. So mentorship can be to help them upskill. Where are the places where they're having gaps in their skill? Then you can provide feedback, you can provide training, you can just help them close that skill gap. It's a 4-week mentorship, 1 hour every week. You go over their work, you provide feedback. And sometimes it's just as simple as telling them, this thing you're doing is really good. Your work is really good. This is maybe just where you need improvement, but you're really good. Maybe getting them to put themselves out there more because a lot of them, due to imposter syndrome, they don't really put themselves out there on social media, so they're not visible.
Right.
So it's all the small things. The mentorship is basically, what does a freelancer need? That is what the mentorship is. If it's closing the skill gap, that is what the mentor provides. If it's helping them find a way, figure out how to scale and how to charge better for their services, that is the support that the mentor provides. Regarding the courses, it's just been incredible. First, we started the Tech SEO training. That training has 10 people in the first cohort, and it's going to be run by Alida Solis. She is one of the best SEOs in the world. So it's going to run as long as Alida thinks it needs to run, and then they graduate when she says they are ready. So right now, they have access to Blue Area SEO and SEMrush Tech SEO course. SEMrush was also kind enough to gift subscriptions to all the students. Wix also donated subscriptions to all the students. Another SEO tool, a content tool called Neuratex, donated subscriptions to all the students. So it's people donating subscriptions, courses, so that the people who are learning the skills have something to practice on. And then at the end of the Tech SEO training, we're going to help them get internship with companies that don't just say they want to do the work, they actually want to do the work.
Right.
Internships to help them apply that Tech SEO skills, 6 months, maybe a year. And then at the end of the 6 months period, they have something to put on their CV that they can use to enter the industry, because that is part of the barriers when you don't have any experience. So you have 10 people in this first cohort. And then in September, you have more people coming in to do cohorts for 10 people. And then by the end of this year, hopefully we have maybe 40 new people in the Tech SEO industry That's 40 more BIPOC people in a white-dominated industry. We also have a ton of people. We've had like maybe one person who donated 30 spots to a course called the SERPS Layers course. It's a SEO copywriting course. She's donating that spot so that those some people in the community who are not very good with the SEO writing skill aspect can improve that skill. We've had people donate spots to content strategy courses so that those who are good with copywriting but are trying to upskill so that they can start to charge more through strategy side can learn those skills. So it's driven by donations. It's driven by people giving. I'm just so thankful that the community has come through so far, but there's still always more to be done, obviously. But this is where we are right now, providing mentorship for over 50 people, I think, the tech SEO for the first 10 people. And so far, we've had around 40 to 45 people who have benefited from free courses.
That's incredible. Truly, Chima. I mean, it's one thing to change your own life, which you've clearly done, but the fact that you've been out there sharing your story and now you're really laying a framework to change so many lives, and I'm sure we'll be scaling that to change more, is a pretty profound thing. So one, just thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
Oh, for sure.
But if anyone wants to, reach out, they're interested in helping your coalition, how can they find you?
They just need to go to the coalition website, which is freelancecoalition.org, and then they'll see the button for donate time and they can sign up to become a mentor. It's that simple.
Awesome. Great. Well, and we can definitely include a link in our show notes as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'd have a lot of people really interested in what you're doing. So, thank you for sharing that with us. And I think giving people an opportunity to get involved and help more people throughout the industry.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that pretty much wraps up, I'd say like a majority of my questions. It's been really fun getting to know you, your story, the awesome work you're doing. I usually like to wrap these up with just a couple rapid fire questions, little tradition on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Cool with that, I can kick that off.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So in your opinion, what are the best hidden growth opportunities within SEO?
I think it's usually with on page, which is where you can find the fastest growth opportunities. Something as simple as adding out text to images can help you rank for image SEO. Improving user experience on your content, making sure you're satisfying search intents, making sure that your website is accessible for all users, not just people who can see and read, but for even blind people, for people who have visibility issues. Just making sure your website is accessible, you'll be surprised how much that can improve your SEO. I would generally say the biggest growth opportunities that are hidden are on page. Using the right page to headers, adding out image text, improving user experience, optimizing for the user, and improving accessibility on your website.
Excellent. And in your opinion, do you have tools or resources that can help people optimize their SEO?
Oh, yes. Oh, no, that's not a hard one. I love tools. I'm obsessed with tools. So yeah, definitely. I would recommend if you're starting with keyword research, Ahrefs, SEMrush are great. If you're trying to do content audit, you can do that with SEMrush or Software SEO. I think Software SEO is a really good tool for that, for content audit. If you're trying to build content briefs and write really good content, expensive one, Market Mules, which is the best in the world in my opinion, but it costs $7,000 a year. If you're looking for something cheaper that's just as effective, I would recommend Phrase. It's also a great way to optimize content before it goes live on your website. And then you can use Screaming Frog. It's a tech SEO tool that you can use to audit your website, find errors, and then fix them.
Oh, I love Screaming Frog. That's a great suggestion. I don't think I've heard that one on the show in a while. So thank you. Thank you for adding that. And finally, what has been your funniest moment working within the world of SEO?
I have so many funny, embarrassing moments, but I think the biggest one would probably be when I was on a Zoom call with a client, and then I think I ate beans and Coke before the call. And then in the middle of the call, I had to go to the toilet. And then I forgot that the toilet was just directly opposite the call, and I forgot to mute my mic. No. And the client could hear me doing my business in the toilet.
No, that's my biggest fear. But you know what? I think so many people did that, especially during the pandemic. I think
this was during the pandemic, definitely. This was 2020, prime pandemic.
Oh, well, you know what? I think that was okay.
And then we laughed about it after, but in the moment.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. That is too funny. But you're so not alone. You're so not alone.
Forgot to turn off my mic, and then she was hearing me in the toilet.
I love it. Awesome. No, I bet so many listeners are like, yep, me too, Chima. Me too. Well, cool. It's been super fun. I knew it would be. I was really excited to get into some of these topics with you today. I think you've got such a great framework. And for those kind of new to the industry and more seasoned to the industry, you really had a lot to offer. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing so many golden nuggets with us today.
Yes, my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I hope you've walked away with a bit of new insight that'll help you in your digital entrepreneurship journey. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating review. To learn more about businesses available for sale at Empire Flippers, click the link in the description or visit empireflippers.com/marketplace. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.